You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brad Hunt. We got Brian Call over here. Today, we're going to go over kind of our fitness and what we're doing to in our everyday life to translate into our hunting life, basically. Time on the mountain. So we're going to cover that and things that we've experienced in the past and things that we have changed and updated as we spend so many days out in the field, just how our body reacts to things. And I know you, Brian, you guys, you and Ryan especially right now are kind of really have kind of started, I guess, dialing things in, as you can say, maybe.
I'd say it's been a crazy journey. I mean, Lamper's just turned 50. I'm 49.
Mm-hmm.
And we're, our hunting is our passion.
Yeah,
for sure. Being in the outdoors, but health and wellness has also, living a good life has been, it's a lifestyle for us. Hunting isn't just a hobby. It's part of who we are and what we do.
Yes.
And that means the food we consume is closely tied to our hunting, and our hunting allows us to consume foods that help us have a better life, right? It's all kind of interconnected.
Yep.
And so I've never understood, I've never been really one to eat a lot of normal American food kind of diets. Part of the big draw for me to be in the wilds is to eat wild things that connect me to nature and make me feel healthier. So it's been a long journey, though, because I, like everyone else, born and raised in America, I had my bowls of Captain Crunch and Fruity Pebbles, and I drank my Mountain Dews and Coca-Colas, and I had my McDonald's and my Taco Bells,
And you ate your grains and your salads.
Yeah, I did all. I've done the standard stuff, right, like everybody else over the years, and throughout my lifetime, everything has evolved. And it's changed, and part of that is, as I age, things that I used to get away with, you stop getting away with.
Oh man, I'm really in those stages of life, and especially, over the last 3 or 4 years, like I've ramped up the days in the field hunting, and just putting that exertion on my body. There were moments in my life that I was really good, dialed on my diet, and there were other times, you're on the road a lot. You're eating crap food or, consuming bad drinks. And so your body, you have an effect on that stuff.
Yeah.
And
definitely a lot of our hunts are sort of adventure endurance hunts.
Yes.
And so and we're doing them back to back. So you might do 2 weeks in this rugged place, covering crazy miles, heavy loads, and then a few days at home, and then you do it again. A couple days at home, and you do it again. Yep. Before you know it, we've spent 90 days almost consecutively just grinding in the mountains. In the past, when I was in my 20s, I might have just 10 days of vacation for the year.
Yep.
I'll burn 7 on an elk season. I could eat Snickers every day, all day. Swell up, be sore, but still young enough to just power through it.
Yeah.
Get home and be pretty wrecked for, a week or two, but who cares? I'm young and I don't have to perform anymore.
Yeah.
I'm at home. And that cycle you get away with when you're younger, but when you, like you just said, begin doing 90 days of hunting in a row, you're very, very tuned in to recovery and sustainability.
Yeah.
You can't just burn your body up for 2 weeks and then take a break. Like,
well, you just said something right there that, I don't know, it just kind of intrigued me, was you don't have to perform at home after you come off this. You're in recovery mode. But
hey, if you like our show and you want to support us, you can head over to one of our partners, which is Canvas Cutter. They sell these awesome bed rolls that we've been using for years. You can just throw these suckers out on the ground, camp in them. You see I got my sleeping bag inside. Can't recommend them enough. They also have duffel bags, some of the best you've seen, Canvas duffel bags. They've got beanbag chairs as well. They call them the dirt bag. They got wall tents. Head on over there. Use the code GRIDDY. Check it out. Cannot recommend the bedrolls enough. Let's get back to the show.
You do have to perform at home because, especially, I don't know, for me, with my kids, and you're just stating that, but with my kids, if I'm not performing at home for them, I'm not doing the activities and the strenuous stuff with them, then they also don't understand that. And I've really realized that as my oldest now is 10 years old, got a 7-year-old, 5-year-old. And there was a point in time where it was like I was not in great shape, and I found myself not going and doing things that we love to do as a family. And then my kids or my wife or whatever, it's sacrificed in that part of our home life where we could have been performing, as you would say, and living a good, active, healthy lifestyle.
You go through phases in life, right?
Absolutely.
Let's say you're on a basketball team,
Yep.
which I did years ago. When I say you're not performing at home, that's your standard 9-to-5 guy like Mark Livesey, who stops exercising for 4 months and only starts
shape.
exercising just before the season. I'm talking about that kind of cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I decided that I was going to be on a basketball team doing city league with 4 games a week, well, now it's a lot like the hunting thing I'm describing.
Mm-hmm.
You're hyper aware of your lack of health.
Correct.
When you start to actually tap into abusing your body or using it intensely, you're hyper aware of all the problems with your diet. So then you get into CrossFit like I did in my mid-30s.
Yep.
And I had done P90X for a few years, and then I did
P90X.
CrossFit for like a decade.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, it was like a marathon of hunting. It became fitness and diet became a day-to-day lifestyle rather than something I engaged in for a period and then stopped and then went back and stopped and went back. We talked about this at the bear tour. Ryan and I especially, we never let our fitness slip.
Yeah.
It's all the time, whether we're hunting or at home.
Yep.
It's always you're pushing it through diet, sleep, exercise, the whole gamut. Because, man, we're older dudes, but we got lots of energy. Our minds are sharp.
Yep.
We're thriving. We love to do this stuff. We can pretty much pick any activity we want to go do, and we're ready to go. We feel young. We feel strong. We feel like we did in our 20s, even though we're right at that 50-year mark. So all that's just preparation to sort of tell you where we're at today.
Right.
I had gut problems for years, and I've done podcasts where I've talked about that evolution. I had soreness, swelling, and I just thought, everybody gets it. You get older. I took a lot of ibuprofen back in the late 20s, early 30s. And then when I got into CrossFit, I was going to the gym, and I considered myself young and fit. And I was. But I'd get in there with some 60-year-olds, some 55-year-olds.
Crushing it.
And they would kill it and come back the next day and show no signs of soreness. Just like they've just shaking their arms out, and I'm like, oh, if I move my arm too slow from yesterday's workout or too fast, I might pull something. And over time, I got to asking them, how are you guys not so sore? Like, I'm perpetually sore. I'm never not sore.
Yeah.
Seems like I never get over being sore. And I should be in better shape than you. I'm younger. I put in the time. And they turned me on to 2 books. One was The Paleo Solution, and one was Mark Sisson. One was Rob Wolf. The other one was Mark Sisson was the author, and he did the Primal Blueprint. And they kind of were like, hey, let's get back into maybe what we're evolutionarily made to eat and consume. Well, that is like kind of caveman diet, right? Go back to the paleo era.
Meat / the animal.
Like Whole Foods.
Whole Foods.
Right?
Yep.
A lot more meat and animal fats, and a lot more just organic, like vegetables and fruits, and lay off processed foods and sugars. And so they also lean pretty heavy into the keto diet. Like, where you're burning ketones instead of glucose, where you're fat burning instead of burning carbs and sugar.
Yep.
And in the book, they detailed, the sort of foods you should eat in order to do that. In that when you do that, you have decreased insulin levels, which causes fat storage and can often lead to the swelling and the soreness and the inflammation of the gut and so on. And so I did. I got rid of all the grains, all the wheat, all the omega-6 oils and vegetable oils, all the seed oils. In my house, I had organic meats, stuff I hunted, fish, all that kind of stuff. And then we try to get as many fresh veggies and fruits and stuff as we could. I ate quite a bit of white rice. I seemed to deal with that well, and sweet potatoes. I got off of regular potatoes mostly because they did make my knees stiff and stuff like that. And I kind of followed the detail of their book, and it worked great. I mean, it was a dramatic change when you stopped having whole grain wheat bran muffins for the fiber,
Captain Crunch,
and you got off of. I was long after that.
I know.
You get off of orange juice, and you stopped eating, pancakes. Like even though they were whole wheat, and dude, I was kind of food pyramid oriented with all those grains and all this. Well, as soon as I switched it up, I felt better immediately. And I felt good for a long time. That's when I started burning more fat, and I started to eat more butter, more of these types of foods, steak. And I did that, but I had a lot of vegetable matter and fruit as well in my diet. Now, I did do keto for 90 days once. Felt great. Lost 20 pounds of fat around my belly and stuff. I was 210, which I've never weighed that much since. Right. I was thick in the middle. Now I'm like 190. But back then, I got down to 180 doing the keto, but I maintained a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
But I was doing CrossFit.
The
and it's
energy.
Very, what do they call it? Glycotic? Like it requires a lot of glucose, sort of that high intensity exercising. And I found that I just wasn't maybe getting enough carbohydrate in to allow me to thrive in that exercise style. But I don't do that as much anymore. I do more long, slow distance sort of work, less high intensity, more hiking and rucking, more strength, weightlifting, and I'm not doing necessarily burpees for time as much as I'm just doing burpees for volume.
Yeah, right.
And endurance. I might do 200 burpees instead of doing 50 for as fast as I can. It burns fat more, than it does does maybe the other workouts. So anyway, I played with that diet for a long time, and it worked great, and it's been good. Ryan's kind of been on that train. Hunt Harvest Health was all about the veggies in their garden and all that.
It crushes Ryan because Ryan absolutely loves gardening and kale and the greens and all that stuff. And
not too long ago, I was on a couch at Livisate's house, and Hillary was talking to me about gut health, and we were driving deep in to get those vegetables in, get those veggies in. Well, it's been pretty good, and we've been toying with these diets, but lately, the last few years, there's been a lot of research being done on health and diet. And I did a podcast a month or so back where I listened to Dr. Lustig and Andrew Huberman on Andrew Huberman's podcast. And they talked about, how bad sugar is. And it was a nice wake-up call. It was a reminder that I should do better. Sugar is toxic.
Yep.
It's got
absolutely
inflammatory. It's pretty much killing you. And, you can argue, and there's a lot of people who do. The fact is, you can't, I'm an experiment of one with myself.
Yeah.
When I removed the sugar from my diet, there's no the notice what you feel is night and day different, especially if you're older.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm 35 now. It's like, as I have over the last few years, especially, have cut out the sugar stuff. And I'm not perfect. We never are. A lot of guys try it. I'm just not as good. And I'm like, I'm young, but I notice when I have cut that sugar out, cut the bad carbs out, like their carbs out, basically, night and day difference, especially sustaining, doing these back to back to back hunts all the time and putting that strenuous load on yourself all the time. Night and day difference. Like, there's no question. I do not have the inflammation, and I do not have the achy joints, the achy ligaments. Like I said, night and day difference, noticeably different.
So, like some 90 days ago or so, Ryan was talking to our friend Mike over at High Intensity Health.
Mike Mutzel.
And Ryan wanted to try some fasting. His mind wasn't feeling as sharp.
Yep.
His cognitive functions were not what they were. He could feel it. And he's just kind of doing some exploration. And Hillary's, a doctor, and she's on the cutting edge, and she's always trying to research what's what in terms of health and wellness. And there's been a lot of discussion over the last few years on this sort of seemingly insane carnivore diet, where it does appear that people with some severe metabolic diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, schizophrenia, especially these mental disorders, but also like diabetes.
Yes.
That they're finding that when people go onto this plant-free, carbohydrate-free diet, and they lean heavy on animal protein and animal fats, that these people, when they drop all of that carbohydrate and stuff from their diets, that they're experiencing a reversal, or at least a severe improvement on these metabolic diseases. So it's getting to the point where it's kind of undeniable. You can't. It's like some of these doctors are doing control studies, and they're showing that we took this person with MS or schizophrenia, we stopped giving them anything but animal products.
Yep.
All they're eating is really healthy animal fats and protein. And these metabolic diseases are receding or disappearing altogether. There are cases of some schizophrenia patients that have been on medications for years just to try to keep their hallucinations and things from ruining their life. They're paranoid. They're mentally broken, and the medical industry treats it solely with pharmaceuticals. There's really nothing we can do, folks, except give you this pharmaceutical. Turns out that, for 100 years or something, epilepsy was treated with a ketogenic diet. But then when the pharmaceutical industry came along and they came up with some medications that they could give that would sort of stop the seizures through pharmaceuticals, through chemicals, they stopped prescribing the ketogenic diet and instead supplemented with the pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. Well, that really is not as effective. But for most people who are not willing to give up all the sugars in their life, it worked. But that sort of treatment was lost, the keto treatment. But it turns out that ketogenic type of diet seems to help with everyone universally.
Right.
And now they're actually doing controlled studies. Now, for my part, I was like, when Ryan was telling me this stuff, we were having these discussions kind of some time ago, I was like, dude, so skeptical. I'm like, you know what, dude? So you're telling me that I shouldn't eat veggies or salads?
And this is coming from Ryan.
Ryan's like, that's what I'm saying. And he's like, look, I have no idea if this is true or not.
Yep.
None. He said, I'm learning, and there's data, and this is what it's pointing to. And I remember when the paleo thing came along,
mm-hmm.
and people were like, the food pyramid's rubbish. Do you know how many people were like, my family and friends were like, you don't eat bread? What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Whole wheat? You're trying to tell me whole wheat's not good for you. You're trying to tell me grains aren't good for us. Grains are the foundation of our health.
Pastas.
And I'm like, actually, no. And many people, I don't think, remember that. But I've been around long enough to go, the suggested norms have been completely flipped upside down over years. So would I be surprised if vegetables, there's no like real solid case for them in your diet? In fact, a lot of these things are causing a lot of gut irritation.
Yeah.
That, yes, we can eat them.
Yeah. We've talked about this. It's like, we were talking about this morning.
Yeah.
Kids are like, I feel, and I 100% agree with Ryan. Kids, I feel, are a perfect example. They don't know. They don't understand these studies. They don't pay attention to that stuff. They don't like eating a vegetable. They don't like eating a salad, a green or whatever. But you put a bunch of fruit in front of them, or you put the meats in front of them, and they devour it. And I really, truly believe there is something to that is,
You could say that. You could say, well, if you base it on desire to eat it, like a handful of kale, that's an indication that because kids or because adults really don't like the taste of it, it's that's your body saying don't eat it. But also, Brad, beer and ice cream, if you put those in front, the body says eat it. That doesn't mean that it's ideal. So it doesn't,
and I
as an argument,
yes,
that's not a great quite work for me.
Right.
But I heard Ryan this morning kind of throwing it out there, and I do think that it should be an alarm bell when you bite into something and your body's like, oh.
We're trying to reject the...
Yes, I do think that should be. Like, imagine some of that is a plant telling you, I'm poisoning you.
Yes.
I'm not meant for consumption. I'm not something you want to eat, right?
Right.
And so I do believe that there is an element to that. I haven't fleshed out that full argument.
We haven't gone into any studies or details or anything like that. It's just an observation.
Yeah, and I've heard it brought up. But I'm not sure that Ryan or myself have any sort of
we're not. I mean, I'm not educated
We're not
enough.
suggesting people go do this, by the way.
No.
We're messing around with this. So long story short, we started eating the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And Ryan has been eating only meat and fat for over 90 days. I'm about 60 days into it. And we're just testing how we feel. And talking to Mike over at High Intensity Health, and Mike's fit as heck, and he's healthy, and mind is sharp.
Man.
Talking to Mike, and he's like, yeah, dude, I don't eat plants. I don't eat fiber.
Yep.
And fiber, he did a podcast on fiber, the myth of fiber, and you're starting to see some crazy things about how fiber studies in the past haven't been very good. They've been more anecdotal than anything,
for sure.
And so we're told we should have fiber, but then some real good data that's coming out now is saying actually no, fiber inflames the gut, makes it swell up, gives you leaky gut, not just sugar, but fiber is causing a lot of bloating and gut pain.
Yep. Just from my observation, I've spent a lot of time with you, Brian, whether it's on the mountain, in the office. Listeners kind of know that, you've had
what are you talking about?
Gut issues, and man, there's been a drastic change, and I've heard you talk about it, and I've seen it, and it's a night and day difference for you.
60 days I've been doing carnivore.
Yep.
I'm eating a couple ribeyes a day, some beef brisket. Yes, it's meat only. It seems insane.
Lots of butter.
I have no bloating, no gas, no constipation, no nothing. Right. Just feeling sharp.
Yeah.
And stomach feeling.
I've noticed the brain fog too. There are times we do a podcast together and it was, we have to think about, we stop. Man, it hasn't been that way.
I can keep my thoughts really organized. I feel like I'm finding the words that I want to use to articulate the concept I'm or to articulate the concept I'm trying to get out the door
Yep.
for people. I feel different, and it seems crazy because we've been told all this stuff, and so Ryan's sending me podcast after podcast, on things like carnivore.
Steak and
And
butter
I've been a big
gal.
fan of Jordan Peterson for a long time.
Yep.
He's doing carnivore for a long time. I thought he was insane. I thought he was doing it because out of desperate need to heal some very bad physical ailments and metabolic breakdowns.
Yes.
However, and his daughter as well, Michaela Peterson.
Yep.
And they had some severe metabolic diseases that were and issues that were plaguing them, killing them. And then to see their complete reversal and turnaround and their thriving health condition. Jordan Peterson's sharp as a tack right now. All he's done is get older, and all he does is eat steak every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, after a while, I start to go, wait a minute. I need to revisit this. Could everything be wrong? And I look at it like this. If some of these, plant-free type doctors, they've been doing this for the carnivore lifestyle for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
What is it? Sean Baker has been doing it for a decade.
At least.
The dude's a beast.
Yep.
He's the epitome of health. And the blood work, it's not a mystery. Like Mike was telling me this weekend, he's like, you're doing carnivore? Get your blood work done. It's not a mystery. Like, we know if you're declining in health or improving in health.
Well, that's Ryan. He was wearing a glucose monitor and stuff like that. And, he'd go get his blood tested when he was on what I would think, and most people would think, would be a healthy diet with the greens and with the meat.
And he'd be crushing. He'd be handling insulin production so well. He wouldn't be insulin resistant.
Yep, but his protein levels were like,
he couldn't absorb it.
Way down. No absorption.
At least that's
of protein.
kind of how he explained it to me.
Yeah, exactly. And now he watches that glucose monitor. I don't think he's on the glucose monitor now. Maybe he's still on it, but he would notice he would never have the spikes. It was always just pretty, fluent, like little rolling hills as he's eating. But his protein, as he's done his blood work, and I'm sure Ryan at some point will touch on this a lot more, but he's not having those issues on the protein absorption anymore.
Yeah, and so, I start to question some of this. And then I think some of the experts in this area, their hypothesis is, all right, human beings probably aren't really meant or designed to process more than a small 10, 20 grams of carb a day.
Yep.
Like, we're just not ideally, although we can do it, we're not suited for it long term. Perhaps that's one kind of theory. The other theory is that we are, and it kind of dovetails in, actually. We are ideally suited for breaking down animal protein and fats and absorbing massive amounts of nutrients, maximizing nutrient absorption from that food source.
Yep. And
everything else is so suboptimal, it's insane. We're not actually so adapted. Now, if that's true, then a single source, like a lot of people have in their head, like a wide and varied diet, and that's what you should consume, and that will make you the healthiest. But if you go back and actually study animals and humans haven't had wide and varied diets. Like when we go to the grocery store now, I can get vegetables I could have never gotten a few hundred years ago. I can get fruits I could have never got. They come from all over the world.
Yeah.
That you didn't have any of those options. Herbs, spices, you didn't have you couldn't do that.
Yep.
You look at like the Lakota Indians, it was mostly buffalo.
Yeah.
Buffalo meat, buffalo fat, some berries, and a few tubers and stuff they could dig up here and there. But for the most part, their diet was meat and fat.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's like a huge part of their diet is meat and fat. And so You look at a lion and other animals, I mean, they're eating the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
You look at a lion, and if he eats something other than meat, over time, that's just toxic. That kills them. Cats can't do that.
Nope.
And so it's got me wondering. It's got me thinking. So as I started to do it, I can experiment on my own, right? Started eating this way. It's been 60 days. I have clarity, energy, no gas, strength is up.
Yep.
I went through a couple phases.
Yep.
Where I was and am just extremely tired. Like tired, fatigued to the bone. For about 7 days there, I was so tired. They have different theories for that as you transition away from carbs. There's like maybe a detox, maybe a keto flu, they'll say, or a shift in your body as it tries to rebalance the electrolytes. Whatever it is, it's not easy. It's been a little bit difficult. I think people are addicted to their sugars and carbs as well.
Mm-hmm.
But every day I'm feeling healthier and stronger and more alert. One thing that's interesting is I wake up, I'm quite alert. I'm energized. I want to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
I have energy. I have, a whole different attitude, like a supreme level of health. And then I'm just drinking water. And then in the evening, though, around 7:00, after the sun goes down, dude, I want to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm much more in tune to my circadian rhythms.
Yeah.
It's not messed up with sugar intake. It's not messed up with hyperinsulin levels. It's not messed up with caffeine and stimulants, which I was taking a lot of before, just to stay alert and productive during the day. I don't find the need for that. I just have energy the way I should. My body's just feeling clean and healthy.
Right.
I don't have the bloating and the gut problems at all. And here's the weird thing, I have a bowel movement like once every 3 days.
Yeah.
And at first you're told you should have one every day.
Before it was 3 every one day.
Yeah, multiple a day, the more healthy you are.
Yeah.
And it's funny as you go down the history, where did they come up with that? What data is behind that?
I don't know.
It turns out that it's really not well researched, dude. It's something to do with a tribe in Africa. A doctor was down there. He saw that they were primitive and that they had big poops and they had them every day. And that's ideal then. But it turned out that and he said it's because they eat this certain grain. Well, they did eat this certain, it was a big part of their diet, this grain, but they also ate massive amounts of animal fats and meats.
Yeah.
And so their health, it could be that they were healthy in spite of the grains that they were consuming, that particular grain, right? Not that the grain was the contributing factor to it.
Right.
It turns out, though, that some of these carnivores that have been doing it for a decade.
Those are the ones that really interest me because they've been doing it for a long time.
Some people said they felt sick for 6 months to a year.
Yep.
They felt better on the carnivore, but they didn't have good, healthy guts for 6 months or a year.
That one's crazy to me. Bella at the
Steak and butter gal.
I mean, she was a full all plants basically diet.
Vegan,
full vegetarian,
something like that.
Yep. And her transformation, I mean, it took her months, like 6 months at a time, or 6 months long of time, to really start to see and feel the effects.
She had acne all over.
Correct.
She was sicker than sick. And then you look at her now and her skin is clear.
Yeah, she's years into it.
And I think 6 or 7 years now.
Yep.
Super healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. The vegetarian thing was killing her.
It's very interesting.
The other one has completely changed. So I think it does take time, especially if you have sensitive guts like I have had.
Yep.
But back to, it's not actually according to what we're seeing. When I'm eating all this meat, because when I have a bowel movement, it's so small.
Yeah.
And it's like there's not much waste.
Right.
It's like my body is consuming almost
all the nutrition,
all the steak.
Yep.
And fat, and very little is left for,
Yep.
for
to discard.
Yep. And when I do, it's like, it's every few days. It's like, I'm not pushing that stuff through the body that fast, because the body's like, I think, just processing it, getting all that stuff through. So you've got to wonder how much protein and absorption was getting lost with all the plant matter in there, causing me to have a movement.
One thing I've noticed just from a physical feature is, like, you don't have, and you're fit, you've always been super fit, but you've always had like a little, I don't know if you want to call it a pooch or a little bit of belly fat.
Yeah.
Like, that's not there. Like, as far
my
as
belly
just
is
from
so
the
flat
outside observation.
It's so flat, and there's no, like, I can feel inside all the fat, the visceral fat, like around the organs and stuff, has completely, it feels like it's gone.
Yeah.
And I don't have this bloating. Like, my abs are all cut. Like, they're just exposed.
Not saying that's going to happen to Livesay right away,
But it is, there is a body transformation. Now,
Absolutely.
I do think that I have been cannibalizing some muscle tissue, because I'm not quite eating enough. I feel so full from a little bit. Like, Ryan's eating a lot more than me.
Yeah, we sat down and we had, I don't know how many ounces of steak we ate last night.
Yeah.
Probably 30-some, 40-some ounces of steak. Like, we had two giant.
It's tough for me to get that much in and processed.
Yep.
But I think this is common, that in the beginning you tend to break down a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I was really hungry at first, and I was eating a lot. And that's, I think, because the carbohydrate cravings are real. And so whenever I craved them, I just went and ate more steak and fatty steak and stuff.
Yeah.
But once I got past that phase, then I became like, I'm pretty satiated, and I'm not eating nearly as much.
Yeah. Here's the one thing I would say I have noticed is, when you're eating all the steak and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, all of a sudden, it's like, when you're full, you're full.
Yeah.
There's no, like, still the urge and cravings to keep eating, or desires to eat something else or whatever. Like, if you're eating a lot of carbs or sugars, I think that's very, very noticeable.
So, the diet has been a major change in the last 60 days for me. I texted Ryan, we were texting back and forth, and we're both sort of in awe with how good we feel, cognitively, physically, alertness. The swelling and soreness is virtually gone.
Yeah.
Ryan has been exercising heavily and crushing it for the past, 6 weeks. He's got boundless amounts of energy. I haven't actually started doing some heavy exercise yet. I kind of wanted to do this one thing at a time and see, but I am in shock that such a change. And I'd given Ryan heck this morning, because, like, I sat here and you and your wife told me I should eat as many vegetables as I can, lay off the protein, and then 5 years later, you're like, actually, I was completely wrong. Now do this.
Yeah.
But I do see these things as an evolution, like one step closer to the ideal, because we knew that we should stay off of sugar. We knew that, Ryan's like, yeah, absolutely 100% stay off of sugar, but probably and whole grains or whole foods like vegetables, salads, fruit. In the scheme of it, that's one step close to a really good diet, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I'd say two factors that could explain why we both feel a lot better than we did is a massive increase in animal fat.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this diet is just your energy is mostly coming from the fat.
Right.
And that means a cube or two of butter a day sometimes. some fatty steaks, some brisket, like the amount of animal fat that we're consuming has gone up tenfold. Well, what does your brain run on? Fat.
Yeah.
It's mostly cholesterol. A lot of people are afraid of eating this way because the saturated fats they believe will cause a heart attack, will cause your arteries to clog, all this. That's all myth. It's just myth. Statins, it's all you need to go and do some real research on the latest news, understand how saturated fats actually impact animal fats actually impact your health. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of bull that has been there, and we've been told and fed these lies for a long time. And you get in there and you realize, man, it's all wrong. It's all not true.
Yeah.
And that's super impactful to know. And so these animal fats have changed. I think that has helped the cognitive function. That has helped our bodies in general. It's helped with digestion. These animal fats we are meant to eat, and a lot of it.
Yep.
And it's hard to overeat them because our bodies have limitations in the amount of bile and processing that they can do. We almost have these natural abilities to just go at the fat as much as we want, and you can hardly overdo it. And there's already built-in mechanisms that, you just kind of whatever's excess, you actually don't absorb. You just sort of slip out the back end.
Yeah, and we're not telling anybody to go do it. I mean, this is a trial and error for ourselves.
Yep.
Figuring it out.
So I think,
for our own.
Cognitively, that could be a big part of it, that increase in those fats.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is, where Ryan was not eating any sugar. He's not eating any carbs really, other than the low carb.
Yep.
So Ryan's already not doing,
I think his
heavy sugar or carbohydrate at all. He's still super low carb. And
his transition was very mild, I feel, because he was on such a low carb diet anyway.
When he ate carbs, he felt no good.
Yep.
So he already wasn't great. So, you're not getting tons of carbs out of blueberries. You're not getting tons of carbs out of kale, broccoli, spinach, a little bit of squash. Like the amount of carbohydrate and all that stuff, it's pretty minimal.
Right.
So for Ryan, it wasn't an excess level of insulin necessarily. So he's, my hypothesis is maybe he's lacking a lot of animal fats, as was I, because you eat a lot of moose, and elk and deer, but if you don't add the fats to it, which we're really low on animal fats.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the butter and the fatty steak we're getting from beef or buffalo, that's a different level of animal fat. So you're adding the fat in, but then it could also be, and Ryan thinks this is true, all that fiber from those vegetables, all the oxalates, which are some forms of toxins and poisons that plants carry in them, were negatively impacting his guts because he was eating a massive amount of kale, a massive amount of whole vegetables. And those vegetables were causing, his theory is they were causing a lot of ill health because they have a lot of downsides. And so the combination of lack of fat and gut damage where he wasn't able to absorb protein could have a lot to do with where he's at. Definitely wasn't a sugar thing, so I think for me, I think it could be a little bit. I ate more carbohydrate than Ryan did. For me, it could be a little bit of that. My guts are definitely not inflamed, sore, bloated, gassy, constipated. Like that stuff's gone. It's wild.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting. Very interesting. And
it is.
I want to,
people have asked some great questions. Like, they're like, well, when someone goes vegetarian, they're often like, I never felt so good. And it turns out that probably that was because they stopped eating processed foods like McDonald's. They stopped drinking soda. They took the chemicals out. So they confuse the vegetable-only diet with the vegetables being what's making them better, when really it's the absence of all the other garbage. Perhaps the diet that the carnivore is not so much what we're eating, but what we've taken out that was causing problems. People ask that, and maybe in 6 months the shoe will drop, and then you'll realize, no, the carnivore diet's not great. It only felt great for a period of time because I did so much elimination dieting, and now I feel chronically not well. But I think when I look around and you look at the data, you'll see that I think it's like 80-something% of vegetarians stop being vegetarians. And the number one reason for that, within like a 5-year window.
Yes.
And the number one reason they stop. Hey, if you like our show and you want to support us, head over to Peaks Equipment and check out what they have. Use the code GRIDDY over there and you will save. They've got the trekking poles. They've got their brand new sleeping bag that they just dropped. Peaks has a teepee. They have gaiters. They have a headlamp. All premium products for the outdoorsman. Head over there. Use the code GRIDDY. That's peaksequipment.com. Now let's get back to the show. And the number one reason they stop has to do with bad health.
Yeah. So Mark, an example of a story we heard at the Bear Summit this weekend, Mark had got in touch with and had a meeting with an individual that he'd been vegan or vegetarian, whatever it was, for a long period of time. And that fellow's doctor said, you're going to die if you do not change your diet right now.
Yeah.
There was some, whatever physical situation he was going on, but his doctor literally straight up told him, you are going to die soon. Just the way your health is.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've heard that. And what happens is these vegetarians run out, and the number one diet they switch to is an all animal products diet.
I'm curious.
So it's natural though. Like if this is true, they experimented with the plant-only diet, realized the body is not meant for that, no matter what your moral issues are around animal product consumption. I didn't make the rules or reality or nature, but if it's true that you're primarily meant to consume meat, you tried the vegetarian thing, your health declined, you felt like crap, you lost your libido, you were tired, you had no energy, your brain fog is out of control, you get some metabolic diseases, and then you go, oh, wait a minute. Then you flip around and you experiment quickly, and you go with like the steak and butter gal, Bella. She goes into the animal product thing, and right away, even though the transition was awkward, uncomfortable, it was still a vast improvement to how she was feeling on vegetable only. And as she went animal product only, her whole life flipped around until she is a thriving, healthy, strong,
and
active
you see those
person.
Individuals that have been doing it 5+ years, 10 years. And I'm curious because, you're on that diet or whatever. And then as an experiment, you start re-supplementing in certain foods. So it might be milk or whatever, or maybe you supplement back in some of the low carb stuff,
or even just apples
or fruits or whatever,
berries,
and see the reaction that you have. And then I think that will, in my mind, will really narrow down like the things that are causing those effects on your body. What I'm curious about, like research I've been doing on carnivore stuff, is people immediately have been talking about their skincare, how their skin, their acne goes away, and their eczema on their hands and stuff goes away. I'm curious on that because I have a boy that he gets some eczema pretty bad. We've had to do some prescription lotions and things, and so I'm really curious to change his diet to really see the effect that it may have on that.
It makes me wonder on the gut biome too, as you transition from one way of eating to the other.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take time, especially if you have a really damaged gut or sensitive gut. It's going to take time for that to ramp up and to heal. I think that Lustig said 95% of Americans have leaky gut.
Yeah, which is crazy scary.
That's opening the door to all kinds of metabolic diseases. So I think, Ryan and I have discussed really trying to do this for a year before we make any decisions.
Absolutely.
Do it responsibly, though. Get our blood work tested all the time. Check things as we go. And if I slip up on a trip or something, we're on the road and it's been a few, and it's like, I'm just going to eat this thing. You're set back for a day or two. We'll be right back on. It's not the end of the world, although neither of us have. I'm just like, this is a process.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I can.
The whole glucose monitor thing is like really intrigued me with Ryan because he's wore a few different ones. And he's really paid attention to that. And so I've just been kind of learning from Ryan through Ryan.
Well, his doctor can do his own blood work.
Yeah. He's at an advantage there.
Yeah, he's got a little advantage there, but I think
it's interesting.
It's interesting. And I honestly would have completely dismissed it entirely. I have been dismissing it entirely.
Yep, me too, for the most part.
Because I've felt pretty darn good overall for my age, feeling healthy and strong. But when it came from Ryan and Hillary and when I started to dig into it and take it seriously, it took someone that I trusted who was doing it for me to give it a look. And
digging deeper into other research with steak and butter gal and with Chafee and with many others.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost like the data is kind of showing itself.
But I wouldn't even have listened to those shows in the first place.
No, without Ryan.
And without probably Ryan, right? I've been sort of in the periphery following some of those and listening to Michaela Peterson and others. And I've been intrigued, but I've been like, I'm busy.
Yeah.
But then, someone like Ryan, I trust him. He's no dummy.
No.
And when I start diving into it, and I realize also that he's competitively could outperform me. Like
he's trying to keep up with me.
Yeah, I can't be having that,
Oh man.
If there's more room for performance and health, I want it.
And that's where I'm very interested because, I'm at that stage in life where I'm still young, but I'm also getting to a point as you get closer to that 40 age range and, beyond. I'm at that point in my life where it really matters. The inflammation, the pain and stuff.
Look,
you really start to notice it more than 20 some years old.
Yeah. Cancer is a metabolic disease. All of these metabolic dysfunctions are what's killing us.
Mm-hmm.
At the cellular level, these diseases that are arriving at the cellular level, what is causing us to be obese? What is causing us to get Alzheimer's and dementia, which before the 1940s or 1960s rather, there really wasn't much in Alzheimer's. What changed then? Well, the food pyramid came on board.
Yep.
The low fat craze came on board.
Look around like the early 1920s, like the somewhere in there it was like the seed oil
inventions
and stuff.
Look, some things have come along, and
what's crazy to me is go look in a school, and a lot of schools will have all their class pictures throughout the years of 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yep.
And look at the children in the 60s, the 70s, into the 80s, and then you get into the 90s and 2000s and now, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, you look at athletes, I swear that every high school athlete that's playing basketball and football is so 50 times bigger than I ever was in high school,
I think
I don't know.
I think part of what's going on here, like I said, I feel like if there is, because I'm very intrigued by the reversal of these metabolic diseases.
Same.
There's like if someone went on carnivore and they reversed their schizophrenia or their MS, I'm just like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Or some other severe like rheumatoid arthritis, junior rheumatoid arthritis, like what Michaela Peterson had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, her those anything but meat, and her body will consume itself.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, the joints dissolve.
It's very interesting.
It's okay, wait a minute.
Myself, I just want to continue to to dive down the rabbit hole, experiment. Never tell anyone this is what you should do because I don't know, you don't know, and I just experimentation for my own abilities and own body.
It's got me wondering though, because if you can reverse the dementia and Alzheimer's, the brain fog and the decline of
metabolic health issues, and
if you can stave off cancer and a lot of that from a meat only diet and animal fats, it gets you wondering like, okay, well then there's something here. There's something here.
It's always like,
but it's an experiment, and that's all it is.
Yeah,
I'm my greatest test. If I feel a certain way, and I continue to just thrive and feel better, and over time I am aging better.
The big pharma and big foods,
then everything that they've
gigantic,
like,
billions of $billion of industry, $billion industry. You know,
it's big food and big pharma are some of the worst things that have happened to American.
Billions of dollars are spent on cancer treatments and stuff. Like, I don't know, but it makes you wonder. It makes me wonder anyway.
Yeah. So, well, I think I'm just sharing with folks kind of
your experience,
what has happened. One thing I think is absolutely critical. It's sort of the step one: get off of seed oils,
processed foods,
and sugar.
Yeah,
just get off it.
Yep,
that is like a major change in your life right there.
Yep.
You still want to hammer the vegetables and the fruits and so on and the whole foods. You know, maybe. You know,
I bet you'd see a drastic change just in changing the processed foods.
Yeah, I think that's a
keeping a whole
one,
foods diet.
Right?
I think that's for sure a step one.
Go there, and then
cut the sweets.
If
sugars.
you're feeling good and you're like, man, I think I might want to try something a little more advanced than this. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard enough just for someone to do that.
Yep. Yeah, one step at a time. Cut the soda out. See what happens.
On the fitness side, it's kind of the same. We're leaning toward more exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And more strength training as we've gotten older.
Yeah.
The exercise is more frequency, daily or every couple of days, longer windows, 30 minutes an hour, but less intensity. You know, I still love intensity. So I still do it because I like it, but short and intense workouts here and there, but not the mainstay of what I do.
Yeah. I'm alongside, as Ryan says, I'm into the fitness that transitions into the mountain, but at the same time, like you're into more of the gym type workouts, and I feel I need to be better at doing more of the gym type workouts too, and the muscle strengthening, bone density training, not just the hiking and what transitions to the mountain, because we were in Mexico, shot a stud coos buck, and I've had some shoulder injuries in the past. And you're like, you want me to pull something up from the ground? Great. I got the strength. I got everything.
Yeah.
But I'm in a position, I'm trying to hold this deer's head up like this at an angle.
A little tiny coos deer.
Okay, tiny coos deer head, and my shoulder is burning. But like, you want me to go squat 400 pounds? Great, let's go, no problem. But for some reason, at that angle, it really opened my eyes to some things deficiencies that I have that I need to work on. And it was like, wow, I mean, this is dumb. And it's, injuries, old injuries to not being in the gym as much or whatever. But you want me to go hike with you or run with you? Like, I'm down. I'm going to compete to a very high level with that.
But I can't emphasize enough, if you've been out of the game for a long time, but even if you're like you and you're really fit,
mm-hmm.
for the hiking, climbing, backpacking.
Yep, the heavy load stuff, whatever.
There's just something about whole body fitness that helps you age better.
Yeah.
Having full range of motion, good upper body strength, shoulder strength, as well as lower body strength. It all is important.
Yep.
And especially I think as you get older. I've also been reading some books one book by Peter Attia talking about longevity, and that's a great one too. And one of the things that he makes a great case for it. It's kind of hard to deny. That is, the more muscle and bone density and ligament strength you have in your 30s and 40s,
it's going to transition into those 50, 60, 80 years.
You cannot get back in the same way generally.
Yeah.
In your 50s and 60s, and like, you're too late. You want to build it now.
Yeah.
Because it can stick with you. I mean, you can look at it. You can look at a dude who was just jacked and fit through his 30s and 40s.
Yep.
And he's pretty jacked and fit in his 50s, 60s, 70s. But you can look at a guy that's really skinny, never really worked out that much in his 30s and 40s. When he hits 50, he's pretty skinny. Yep. When he hits his 60s, it doesn't matter what he does now. He's on the downhill.
Yep.
So the more you start with going into your 50s and 60s, the more you get to keep it for longer.
Yep. And I'm in my prime, Brian. I'm in my prime. No.
You are. You are. I was listening to some fitness experts talking about this guy in his 20s going to the gym a lot and working out heavy.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, I wish I could put on more muscle. And this old guy's like, he's a strength genius. He's like, look, man, men peak, like, they really put on muscle in their 30s. Yeah. That's really when you can just stack on. Old man strength, he's like, is a real thing.
Oh, absolutely.
He's like, in your 20s, you can work really hard and you don't get the results that you do.
I think you're
as you get older.
Full of piss and vinegar then.
Yeah. But for some reason, there is some kind of strength issue that
what's
in.
Funny is some of my friends around the Boise area and stuff, and like RJ Colo from Hunter's Choice Taxidermy in Boise, I just happened to see this post that, they're in their 30s, they're around my age, whatever, and they just did a over 30 wrestling, freestyle wrestling challenge or whatever. So they bunch of guys, like, it's a huge event. And it got me wondering, like, it always keeps me you have to keep your body physically fit to when that challenge arises, that you're still capable to do it. And I've played some ball quite a bit off and on, basketball a lot. And there's a few guys there that are, they're in their 50s that are still competing at a pretty high level. And it's like, I don't know, that's where I always want to be. And for my kids, that's my number one thing, is for my kids. I want to be the dad that I'm physically fit to kick my kids' butt late in life, and I had some buddies growing up that their dads, it wasn't the case. And I was very fortunate, and my dad was. My dad could kick my ass.
If you're into archery, especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
The main area that men lose range of motion in is their shoulders, and they lose it early and they lose a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll meet a guy and he can't even put his arm above his head and straight. He can't put his arm behind his back.
Mm-hmm.
When he rotates it around, he's got very little mobility and little strength. And the elbow or the shoulder socket joint is the most mobile joint on the human body.
Yeah.
And by the time dudes are in their 30s or 40s, they've lost most of that ability.
Mm-hmm.
And then that just opens up a can of worms as you get older, and especially if you love shooting a bow, but just being active.
Yeah.
Rotator cuff tears, all kinds of other problems that
bursitis to whatever.
Yeah. So the way you prevent that, the way you really build up longevity of health, dude, it is a barbell.
Yeah.
It is box step ups with dumbbells in your hands.
Yep.
It's a weighted vest. It's training with weight.
Pull-ups.
It really is. It's doing strength training.
Yeah.
And every one of those movements under load, putting a routine together, it's just a recipe for health going into older age.
Yep.
So you want to pack on strength, not necessarily muscle volume.
Right. Yeah, there was a point, like, I was hitting the gym really hard, in the mid, 2018, 2019, even 2012. And I got up to like 210 pounds, and I was like fit. I was in shape. I was playing a lot of ball. But at that point, I got to where, I didn't feel as mobile.
Yeah.
And so I cut back down, started doing a bunch of plyometric style workouts, and I got back down to that 190, 195, kind of where I sit now.
Yeah.
I feel great. I have a ton of energy, like my muscles feel strong, but that Mexico trip holding that buck really opened my eyes to like the certain areas that I am weak in.
Yeah.
And a lot of us do too. I think I've had some major shoulder issues, and a couple of them I never got fixed. Got to the point where like the pressure of a basketball crossing over would dislocate my shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something I never got fixed. And I tried to do some mobility work to work on some physical therapy stuff, but really opened my eyes up to my weaknesses for sure.
I also think, and I said this at the bear tour, well, we got a question on our health and stuff, Ryan and I.
Mm-hmm.
I also think do what's fun.
Yeah.
Because exercise is kind of like grown-up playtime.
Yep.
You know, and I do enjoy going to the Gritty CrossFit gym, hanging out with friends, people that want to get after it. There's a shared camaraderie and brotherhood there. Ryan likes to get out on a mountain by himself.
Yeah.
You know, that's enjoyable. It's physically demanding and enjoyable.
Yeah.
We kind of like a lot of that too, you know, and so just get out and do what you like. Don't try to just copy someone else's thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if I wanted to just be fit for the mountains, CrossFit probably wouldn't be the thing. But I want to be fit for jiu-jitsu, if I wanted to, swimming, you know, being in the ocean. Like I kind of want to have the strength and the fitness to climb a tree, to do more than this one lane of activity. And I also just find it enjoyable. Like I love playing on the Olympic rings. I love climbing a rope at the gym.
See, I like the cardio aspect of it.
No, I like the strength and the slow movement and those things are.
Yeah.
It's like when you were a kid and you were hanging from a limb, you know, and you jump from one, you know, one
monkey bar to the next.
Yeah, and you did
around.
like a little danger in that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Riding your bike fast, like all that kind of stuff. Get out and do the fun things.
Yeah,
what gets you excited.
Like rodeo,
you know, Cameron
and bull riding.
You look at Cam and he wants to run, and then do like the bodybuilding sets.
Right.
And who cares? He's doing the parts he likes.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to get under a barbell. And I want to swing it around.
Mine's too physical and dangerous. I want to ride bulls more. I can't do that now.
Yeah, that right there is a recipe for aging poorly.
Oh, man.
But
I know.
You know.
In my head, I still feel like I am young and strong and want to do the bull riding. But at the same time, I'm like, it's not the best idea. I don't have control in that situation.
No.
So that's right. I am going to make a very hard effort, especially moving forward, like getting into the gym more, because I've always despised the gym. Like, I'll go do it.
I would say, you've been to CrossFit Gritty with me a few times.
Yep. Yeah.
That doesn't feel like a gym.
No, it doesn't.
You know what I mean?
And I will say, like, I've been to other CrossFit gyms, and again, I wish those guys were closer to Logan and not in Ogden, because I'd be there every day, to be honest, just because being around some other CrossFit gyms in Boise and in Pocatello, when I was growing up, you know, out of college and stuff, it's not the same. You know, their training routine, his what do you call it? Programming. His programming is second to none. And he really cares about, like, what I was doing was different than what you were doing in the CrossFit gym. You know, he was taking the time to really scale where I needed to scale. And it was like the cardio was never an issue for me.
Nope.
The leg workouts are never an issue for me. It's the overhead strength workouts have always been a problem for me. I mean, I could incline bench press more than I could regular bench press, you know, in high school and out of high school, where, you know, he really focuses. And that to me was fun. You're
dabbling in a little bit of gymnastics.
Yeah.
Skills training, balance, find muscle fibers, and, you know, you're dabbling then in the strength conditioning before you even do a cardio exercise.
Yeah.
And the three together, I think, are a nice, you need kind of all of that. And my favorite is the gymnastics work and the strength work.
Yep.
When we do cardio,
that's where I catch back up.
There's nothing about that is particularly great.
Not
like
fun
it's a sufferfest.
Yep.
It's a frickin' sufferfest.
That's where I'm like, yeah, here we go.
I know. I mean, I've been around people who just like they get into that, like they don't feel like they're dying to breathe or anything,
Yep.
Look, I've always been an athlete. I've always held my own, but we have our strengths and our weaknesses.
Absolutely. And that's what I like about his programming, because today's workout is backing up against 2 weeks ago workout previous to the future workout in 2 weeks.
Because it's not just exercise, it's programming. So there's an end goal. 6 months, we want everybody in the gym to be here.
Yes.
In a year, we want them to be here. We want each person to have increased their overall strength in these categories.
Yep.
And if you follow the program, they build on each other instead of just random ass stuff.
Yeah, he's very good at it.
Yeah.
Camera's about to die, so.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. That's it for this episode. We hope you got some use out of it and just gets you thinking, gets you pursuing your fitness and your
experiment for yourself.
Aging well. Go to Stealthy Nutrition if you need some supplements for health. They got the beef organs over there. They got some turmeric, a lot of CBD. That's some great stuff. So if you go over there and use the code GRIDDY, you will save, and it helps us out. And great gear over at Peaks Equipment. And Go Hunt. Go to the gear shop, use the code GRIDDY, you'll save. And they've got, over there at Go Hunt, they've got points when you shop at the store.
Yep.
They got everything you kind of want in one stop. That's cool too. So check out Go Hunt, check out Peaks Equipment, check out Stealthy Hunter. 3 companies that we're part of that we really love, and they make great stuff.
Yep.
And helps us out.
Yeah, for your food and nutrition stuff, check out Harvest Right, because it's going to help in your everyday and on the mountain food prep to keep your ingestion healthy.
We have a link below for all those cool partners in the description field of our films and our podcasts. Check it out there. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next one. Stay gritty.